Sergeant at Arms, prepare to march on the colors.
Color party. Carry colors. Quick, march. Color party, march! Time! Color party, halt! Inwards, turn!
We will now sing our national anthem.
Color party. General salute, freeze and arms!
Before we proceed to the consideration of this remembrance service, which has brought us together, let us pause and think reverently of those of our comrades who by sea, by land, and in the air laid down their lives for their sovereign and country. Their sacrifice will ever inspire us to labor on to the end, that those who survive and need our aid may be assured of assistance, and that the country in which we live and for which they died may ever be worthy of the sacrifices they made. During our silence, we will remember our fallen comrades and those who have passed on since we've last gathered together.
General salute, freeze and arms! Shoulder, arms. Escort will fire volley with blank rounds. Examine arms. Prepare. Load. Ready. Reset. Fire. Examine arms. Prepare. Load. Ready. Reset. Fire. Prepare. Load. Ready. Reset. Fire. Unload. Make safe. Prepare for inspection. Fire. Clear. Ready. Shoulder. Arms. General salute. Freeze it. Arms.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them. Shoulder. Arms.
In Flanders fields, the poppies blow between the crosses. Row on row, that mark our place, and in the sky the larks, still bravely singing, fly scarce heard amid the guns below. We are the dead. Short days ago we lived, felt dawn, saw sunset glow, loved and were loved, and now we lie in Flanders fields. Take up our quarrel with the foe. To you from failing hands we throw the torch. Be yours to hold it high. If ye break faith with us who die, we shall not sleep, though poppies grow in Flanders fields.
The final inspection. The soldier stood and faced his God, which must always come to pass. He hoped his shoes were shining just as brightly as his brass. Step forward now, you soldier. How shall I deal with you? Have you always turned the other cheek, and to my church have you been true? The soldier squared his shoulders and said, No, Lord, I guess I ain't, because those of us who carry guns can't always be saints. I've had to work most Sundays, and at times my talk was tough, and sometimes I've been violent because the streets were awfully rough. But I never took a penny that wasn't mine to keep, though I worked a lot of overtime when the bills just got too steep. And I never passed a cry for help, although at times I shook with fear, and sometimes, God forgive, I wept unmanly tears. I know I don't deserve a place among the people here that never wanted me around except to calm their fears. If you have a place for me here, O Lord, it needn't be so grand. I've never expected or had so much, but if you don't, I'll understand. There was a silence all around the throne where the saints had often trod, as the soldier waited quietly for the judgment from his God. Step forward now, you soldier. You've borne your burdens well. Walk peacefully on heaven's streets. You've done your time in hell.
Why wear a poppy? Please wear a poppy, the lady said, and held one forth, but I shook my head. Then I stood and watched as she offered them there, and her face was old and lined with care. But beneath the scars the years had made, there remained a smile and refused to fade. A boy came whistling down the street, bouncing along on carefree feet. His smile was full of joy and fun. "Lady," said he, "may I have one?" When she pinned it on, he turned to say, "Why do we wear a poppy today?" The lady smiled in her watchful way and answered, "This is Remembrance Day. And the poppy there is a symbol for the golden men who died in war. And because they did, you and I are free. And that's why we wear a poppy, you see. I had a boy about your size, with golden hair and big blue eyes. He loved to play and jump and shout. Free as a bird, he would race about. As the years went by, he learned and grew and became a man, as you will too. He was fine and strong with a boyish smile, but he seemed with us such a little while. When war broke out and he went away, I still remember his face that day, when he smiled at me and said, "Goodbye, I'll be back soon. Mom, please don't cry." But the war went on and he had to stay, and all I could do was wait and pray. His letter told of the awful fight. I can see it still in my dreams at night, with the tanks and the guns and the cruel barbed wires and the mines and bullets and bombs and fire. Till at last, the war was won. And that's why we wear a poppy, son. The small boy turned as if to go. Then he said, "Thanks, lady. I'm glad to know. That sure did sound like an awful fight. But your son, did he come back all right?" A tear rolled down each faded cheek. She shook her head, but didn't speak. I sunk away in a short of shame, and if you were me, you have done the same. For all thanks and giving, it offered delay. Through our freedom was brought, and thousands paid. And so, when we see a poppy worn, let us reflect on the burden borne. But those who gave their very all when asked to answer their country call, that we at home in peace might live, then wear a poppy, remember and give. Thank you.
Farewell to a soldier. Eternal are the bonds forged between comrades at arms. They stood together as in the glory days, again called to duty. This time, they will lay a fallen comrade to eternal rest. They formed a circle around the flag-draped casket. One by one, they pinned a poppy to the flag. The last post sounded, reminiscent of another time, another place. In reverent silence they stood, united in remembrance. Their numbers are dwindling day by day. Their shoulders are bent and weary from the heavy burden they have been carrying for 75 years. They formed a guard of honor as the casket is carried past. Snapping to attention, they salute him, he who has fallen from the ranks. I stood, proudly Canadian. Who more than a soldier knows the price our freedom has cost? Never before have I felt such deep gratitude and such humility being in the presence of these heroes. Another revolution is needed now, not war, but a revolution within the human heart. A revolution where the dignity of life is secured through peace and the promotion of culture and education. This is the 21st century. This is a century of humanity. This revolution begins with me, standing with them through the pages of time, past, present, and future. The call for peace will be answered if I accept the responsibility. I will never give up the dream. I will never forget. Eternal are the bonds forged between comrades at arms. Thank you.
During the 2019 Poppy Drive, Remembrance Day was overshadowed by comments made by a hockey color commentator, starting with the words, "you people." He would have been more accurate if he'd only followed up with all 37 million of you. As a nation, Canada needs to spend more time educating people about the meaning of Remembrance Day. Many Canadians, whether first or fifth generation, do not know their country's history. Even before the current trend of cancel culture, Canadians have had a habit of denying or suppressing the past. How can we expect new Canadians to know or understand our history when we have several generations that are still not fully aware? Schools teach very little of Canada's contribution on the world stage in the 20th century. When they do, they change the narrative to focus on topics that relate to the social issues of today. Several years ago, an elementary school nearby used the Remembrance Day Assembly to push a political message to children. Some schools refuse to acknowledge Remembrance Day as if it were in some way shameful. A young Canadian with a YouTube channel, when asked about the poppy, described it as something that people were shamed into wearing every November. There have even been attempts by a few organizations to change our symbol of remembrance, the poppy, to something that will suit their own message. The Royal Canadian Legion was created in 1925 as an organization to support veterans and honor the sacrifice of the fallen. Unfortunately, 95 years later, many Legion branches and members have lost touch with the original mission statement. Remembrance Day is not a federal holiday. It is not even a provincial holiday, such as Ontario. Even if it was, most people would use it as an excuse to go shopping. Our government is willing to give compensation to terrorists who were mistreated, but when veterans ask for more support, they are told, "You're asking for more than we are willing to give." So even our government wants to forget as soon as the conflict is over. While Canada has ignored or forgotten the contributions of its citizens, other countries have not. In Belgium, every night at the Menin Gate, traffic is stopped, people stand silently as a minute of silence is preceded and followed by Last Post and Reveille. In France and Holland, school children are taught about the horrors of 5 years of occupation and about who liberated them. Every year, students are given sections of Allied cemeteries to maintain throughout the school year. In Dieppe, schools teach so thoroughly that students learn the names and actions of individual Canadian soldiers. In 2006 in Caen, France, an organization was formed to honor Canadians who fought in Normandy. The organization was named after 3 brothers from Mount Dennis who died shortly after D-Day. It is known as the Westlake Brothers Souvenirs. In trying to put the painful past behind us, we have neglected and forgotten our history. In doing so, we have forgotten the sacrifices of those Canadians who have come before us. In John McCrae's famous poem, he says, "To you from failing hands we throw the torch." be yours to hold it high. And yet, as a nation, we did break faith. Thankfully, the nations that Canada helped did bring freedom to did not. To learn our nation's history and experiences during wartime does not glorify war. Far from it. This is a valuable way to learn about confusing times and make it more relatable to the future. The more knowledgeable future generations are, the more they can improve our country and the world. Remembrance Day has less meaning when not knowing the full story behind it. Without the understanding, the Poppy campaign becomes just a bunch of people in blue blazers selling a red plastic flower. A lot has changed since World War I ended, when every community in Canada was affected. As a way for these communities to grieve, most municipalities erected monuments to honor the many Canadians who sacrificed their lives. These were not monuments of glory, but of loss, sorrow, and remembrance. It is the responsibility of the government, schools, the Legion, and all citizens to ensure the contribution and sacrifice of so many Canadians is passed down to other generations and not forgotten. Why do some countries have the desire and ability to not only remember and teach about a more painful and horrific time, but also continually pay tribute to those from other countries who helped liberate them from tyranny? And why can't Canadians do the same?
Please join us in the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Escort! Show their arms! We will now lay the wreath. Escort! Resting on arms! Reverse arms! Escort! Show their arms!
Please join me in a prayer for Remembrance Day. We give thanks for the freedom we enjoy, for the opportunity that is ours to build a better order of society for the generations to come. Let us never take this gift for granted. Let us pray that we may have such devotion to duty that those whom we remember for their dedication and heroism may have not been in vain. Giver of peace, may the courage of those whom we are remembering serve as an example to us and sustain our sense of honor and our call to duty, for we humbly serve with your grace. Amen.
This remembrance meeting being concluded, let us as we part remember our duty to our branch, our comrades, our country, and our sovereign. May we ever strive to promote unity and the spirit of comradeship, never forgetting our solemn obligations we have assumed as members of the Royal Canadian Legion, and remembering them, may we ever pray. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget.
Lest we forget.
And now sing the royal.
Color party, carry colors! Escort, show their arms!
Sergeant at Arms, prepare to march off the colors.
Color party escort, outwards, turn! By left, flag, march! Left wheel! Left wheel! Right wheel! Color party!